What's up, guys? It's Mattrod here with a new Ableton tutorial for you. It's going to be the first of many. I'm just going to start easy with everybody, and something that I think everybody needs is EQ. That's this thing right here. It comes standard with almost every DAW you get. So you don't need one thing that people need to know about EQ first off the bat. What you don't need is a special plugin that costs X amount of dollars for you to get a quality sound with a good EQ. A lot of the DAWs come with a perfectly fine EQ for you to use off the bat. Anyways, let's get right into it. So we're going to start out with the frequency ranges. Okay, we have the low end. We'll bring this up right here. We got the low end, which is right here, anywhere from 100, 100 to 100 and below, and then 100 and above. We have to the 1000 range. We have the mid, which is where you're either going to get your noise, your muddy, or your clarity. You can either make or break a sound through here. And then the low end, I forgot to mention as well. This is where you're going to want to cut off a lot of unwanted frequencies. And then you have right over here the mid to high, and that's another part of area of clarity and presence. And then there's the high end, which is more of the well, a little more. I can't believe I'm saying it again, but the clarity and presence again. And I also have an image right here. Brightness is the word I was looking for, and air. All right, those are the areas that you have. I will also add these images that I have, these cheat sheets, for you guys to use in the description below. Okay, so let's move on. What I like to do off the bat, I have a little sample for us to use right here. Let's listen to it. That's me, believe it or not. Nah, I'm just kidding. All right, so yeah, that's the sample right there. Ignore what it's labeled up there. It doesn't mean anything. And so if you have Ableton or any other digital audio workstation, you should have 8 knobs. If you don't, you can just search in wherever and find your EQs and go to EQ8, right? EQ8, and Ableton, just drag that in here. Boom, you have it. I have mine set up already down there. You can do an EQ3, EQ4. Those are just less knobs. The 8 gives you the most options, okay? And so we'll start out with everything, with something I always do off the bat is I roll off the low end from, I'll show you guys in the image over here, from 75 hertz and below. You take that out and you're good. Sometimes you want to take even more if it's a little bit noisier. You can even go from 100 hertz, but sometimes there's some areas there you might want to keep. But yeah, so anyways, we're going to go like that. And in Ableton, it gives you this lovely option of having different types of ways to roll off the EQ, and different types of ways to roll off the EQ, and different ways to manipulate the EQ. And so basically, an overall view of EQ is you're trying to manipulate the sound, the sound bite into the and capture the parts of it that you want to come forward in the song. Okay, so if we're talking about human vocals, you don't really need anything below 100 hertz because there's not much of our voice that's going to be heard there, even if you are a baritone. So what I do is I roll off. I pick this L-shaped one to the left, and I roll off from 75 hertz and below. So this is going to take us to the next part. These knobs to the left, the frequency, the gain, and the Q. So now the Q is the angle amount of roll off. So let me just show you what we did right now to see what the effect is of just that. So this already is a sample that somebody has clearly already rolled off a lot of the low end, and I would try to give you, let me see if there's a different sample we can use with a little bit better low end. No, that's fine. You guys already understand. You can see it right here, that the low end is already taken off. See right there? That's all the low end is already taken off. So um, there's not much that's going to need to be done there. It's not going to do anything too crazy. But so for the Q here, this right here, when you move this knob up and down, you can see it creates a different angle. And if you want a hard, sharp cut, you just take this Q and you move it and you manipulate it so it cuts exactly the way you want it and then when you add other frequencies, they're going to affect the way this one moves. I'll show you right now. So the next thing I do is I lower the 250 hertz range just a little bit to take out that muddiness. You don't necessarily have to do this every time, but I like it because it is just nice. So the next one is, let's go back over here and check the screen. So next one, you have your nasal tone or lyric clarity. This is two things you can get here as well from the center, from 800 hertz to 100 to 1000 hertz, which is this big bar right here. And you see how I have these two set up as bubbles. The bubbles are for the center ranges. I like to choose because I like to choose them for the center range because it gives you a little bit more of an option when you hit the cue. I'd highly recommend those only for using the center, and then to roll off you use the L's on either end. We'll get to that part in a second. But for here, let's hear what it sounds like when I pull up in the 1000 hertz range. See? Okay, so now we're adding some presence there. You can hear it's coming a little bit louder. Awesome. So now I'm not going to take too much more time in this. That's a little too sharp. We're going to widen that and bring this down just so it's just a little bit adding to the presence. Now the fourth one, what I like to do is something called subtractive EQ. This is already set up as this. You can do, my cue is already set up like this. I'll show you how to do it in a second. You can do this separately. You can do two types of EQ. You can do additive EQ, which is kind of what we're doing here on certain points. And you can do subtractive EQ, which is what we're still doing with certain points. If you really want to get granular, you can make two of these, Control C and Control V, Command C, Command V on Mac, and create two versions of the EQ, one subtractive and one additive, and just select the parts you want to add, you want to highlight, like the mids, cut off the low, and select the parts you want to highlight, and take out the parts you don't. And you can do that if you'd like. I'm just going to go over the main overview of what I do when I do just a regular solo EQ on one. So here I like to take out for my voice. Depending on your voice, you may not have to do this. It definitely varies, but it's just an example of subtractive EQ. What you do here is you can either open up the vocal in the 3K, 6K range, or you can subtract or remove some sibilance or remove digital harshness. Sometimes mine has a little bit of that, so I just always keep it around 4.5K. Leave that there. Add a 5, add a fifth point. And now we are going to add a little bit of brightness. So let's listen to it. Pull that. So now we have that. And then the final, well, there's actually one point I missed too. We're going to subtract a little bit more from this EQ over here. And the way you get this angle, excuse me, on the fourth one that I missed, the way you get the angle is you add the gain, you add the Q, you push the Q all the way up, and as that happens, you get a very sharp angle like this, right? So we're going to take another sharp angle around, let's see. Another way to find your sounds that you want to subtract out of subtractive EQ, the main way to do it actually is you take this Q all the way up like this, and you hear that, and you drag it around till you find the part that sounds ugly. And you take that ugliness out, all right? You got to take that ugliness out and you subtract it out. And so now you have two subtractive EQ points that clean up the vocals. You got a bunch of other points that can react together to increase the vocal. And on the final eighth point, we roll it off. We roll off the high end because there might be too sharp of a high end. It just cleans it up the vocal, and you get a nice roll. This 5 is a little too high. We're gonna bring this down just a bit. And I'll show you with that on. Once again, this vocal has already been, cleaned, and it was a sample. I couldn't create one, but this is just an overall view of general EQing for the beginner on any digital audio workstation, but specifically here for Ableton. So let's listen to it without it. Let's listen to it with it. So there's very subtle differences, and EQing is extremely subtle, so you'll see those when you're doing it. If you guys want to, this is about the end of the tutorial here. If you want to get in more in-depth tutorials on EQ or anything more, just comment below. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. If you've already subscribed, thank you so much, and I appreciate you guys. And on to the next one. See you next time.